In this episode, we welcome a US collegiate NCAA Division One men's golf coach all the way from Golfing Haven, Arizona, more specifically the University of Arizona Wildcats in Tucson. We're going to tackle recruiting from a coach's point of view, along with the vast opportunities that wait those good enough to play at the Division One level. As is often the case with my episodes, I'm sure we'll divert off into other topics that arise. So it promises to be a pretty cool discussion that we hope you, our listeners, get a lot out of. So let's get right to it. Delighted to welcome Coach Jim Anderson from the University of Arizona. Thanks for coming on In the Huddle, Coach.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to join you and got a new podcast I'm going to listen to too. So I'm looking forward to picking up some of the content from earlier and future podcasts from you too. So thank you for the invite.
Awesome. No, appreciate you coming on. And as I said to you just before we started, it's really important, I think, that we talk to Division One coaches. We've been educating our listeners about all the different types of pathways or divisions and all their different characteristics. So really, really cool to have you on. There's a lot of, it's quite a topical, I think, at the moment, golf recruiting in Division One for those that are looking at that. There's been quite a lot of changes, as you know about, which we'll tackle today. I'm really excited to talk about that because I think people need to know that. But before we do, I guess my research tells me, mate, you're in your 14th year, 15th year, I think now at, or 14th or 15th year at the helm of Arizona Golf. Is that right?
That's all right. Yeah, just using my quick finger math, I think I'm 14. So it
14th
goes by
year.
quick. I mean, some of it you can see the aging and the wrinkles and what have you, but it goes by quick too. So I think it's number 14 for me.
Yeah, well, I can't see any wrinkles, and you've certainly got a full head of hair, so I can't say the same about myself, mate. But maybe golf coaching is what I need to get into. I mean, keep my hair, maybe. But
Yeah,
look,
yeah, I could transfer some over. I
yeah.
could share that, but I got other parts where I'm working on too. So it's not all flowing the way it looks.
No, looking pretty good, mate, I reckon. But I think, if you think about 14 years, I'd imagine you've seen plenty of changes from your first year until now. I'm pretty keen to talk about that, like some of the changes. What do you might be a good place to start there? Like, what do you in your 14 years at the helm as a Division One coach at a really strong program? What do you think are the biggest changes that you've seen happen in that time?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to dive into that because we hear it all the time. College athletics is changing every day, and like this is the new college athletics. I think some things haven't changed. To answer the question here in a minute, I will. But things that haven't changed are, the desire for young people to compete and the desire for them to continue finding, a community or something to surround themselves that they have a strong affinity for to continue to improve, not just as an athlete. And of course, in this conversation, I'll be speaking mostly about golf, but also want to continue to pursue an education and chase something bigger than themselves. So even when I answer your great question, Chris, about all the things that have changed, there's still some foundational things that are still very, very pure and very, very positive and very, very encouraging about getting, an opportunity to lead a team or recruiting young people who are in the prime of their life, ready to take on some ambitious goals and really, deliver on some ways to change their future and others that around them, their future, the future around others or with their team and what have you. So it's still an incredible opportunity, and it's still at its core something that is very, very much worth pursuing. So, but that said, we see it with the world. I mean, there was a day where I would have had anxiety having a video conference call with you. I would have said, "Wait, what? You want to have a video call?" And of course, through the pandemic that we all experienced, and out of necessity, video calls became the norm. And now it's just so comfortable to sit here. So sometimes change is good, and I think there's been a lot of things in college athletic where change is good, and we're learning different ways to do things, and we're coming to the student athlete and providing some incredible life skills and experiences and resources that we're able to share with them at this very critical stage of their life where they're chasing some ambitious goals and getting to do some really, really amazing things on the golf course. And so those changes have been positive. But, that said, there are a lot of things too where you see, there's things that become prioritized in a different way with name, image, and likeness. That's a real thing now, and that's something that most programs have had to adapt to, and some are slower than others in getting into that space. But that's something that's totally different than even 3, 4 years ago in college athletics,
Yeah.
and even timelines with recruiting that has changed. There was a day where a golf coach would be hoping for the phone to ring so they could answer a 12 or 13-year-old's call to say, "Oh, and you want to come visit our campus? Yeah, that'd be great." And then the coach would present them with an opportunity at 12 or 13, and they would have to theoretically say yes or no. This is great. I'll take it. Those days don't happen anymore. So there's been some very positive changes with the recruiting timelines too. But
Yep.
as it goes with college athletics, it's very competitive. It's very visible thanks to the social media and us being able to project our brands to so many, and so many are interested to see what it's like to be a part of A program, B program, C program. You get to see what it's like. And with this competition, we're all trying to do different things to differentiate. We're trying to do things to us, assemble the best talent you can to pursue goals to win a championship. And when you get competition, it makes you better, but it also forces you to do things in a different way. So I know that's a lot to take in one answer, but
Uh,
it's been an amazing journey, and it's changing, I don't mean every day. I mean, tomorrow is going to be similar to today for me, but there's probably something coming in a year that we're not talking about right now that I'm going to have to adjust to, and so will the 315 other coaches that are running programs that we compete against.
yeah. No, that's a really yeah, it's a really good answer because it's yeah, it just shows, I guess, listeners uh yeah, how dynamic college recruiting is constantly changing, isn't it? And as you say, we've got to adjust on our end as well, because we're tasked with the really important role of advising young student athletes on this end on how to approach the process. And I think being young Australians in particular, we are far away. So we do rely on social media, we do rely on this high visibility of how this all works, but it still doesn't replace being there on the ground, seeing how it all works. And having just been over to the US a couple of weeks back, I hadn't been a little while, I haven't been very often since COVID. Um, yeah, it just everything that you just said was evident, how amazing still this opportunity remains. It's as dynamic and vibrant as ever, these campuses in America, and the opportunity is just so amazing. But yeah, I think the competitiveness of college sport and more specifically college golf has changed. And so that means, yeah, you do need to be in front of coaches maybe a little bit earlier and more often. And what coaches are looking for are probably, and when they're looking for it, probably changed as well a little bit. So yeah, certainly interesting to hear from your perspective, but certainly I know, and we obviously recruiting, there's always two sides, right? There's the athlete trying to look for a college, and then there's a coach trying to find the right athlete and try and meet in the middle. So that's interesting. So I think I might just dive in just a little bit into the NIL. For those listening, there are some of you that will heard of NIL, or name, image, and likeness rules that have come into play for particularly in Division One athletics and sport. You mentioned just before, Jim, about yeah, how that's impacting recruiting. Again, from my previous trip, football drives it all. Obviously, there's a lot of money being made out of the game of American football, which trickles down into golf and all the other sports and allows you guys to do what you do. But how have you found the impact of athletes now being able to be getting endorsements and paid um, to be student athletes, which is something that was, obviously not permitted until, only in the last few years.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to educate yourself about the NIL opportunities. And I think, not even pretending to be an expert myself, because it's something I learn new things about, even as familiar as I am with it, on a weekly basis almost. So without pretending to be the resident expert, I think one of the things that's changed with some of the um, you know, settlements within the NCAA and where they're at, they've now gotten everybody on a much more level playing field as it relates to NIL opportunity. And in a simple way, as a student athlete, if you're presented with, or if you're pursuing a name, image, and likeness opportunity, where you're gonna, profit off of that, you have to submit these through a clearinghouse, if you will, called NIL Go. And all these deals that are being presented to the student athletes of any sport at any school are being approved or denied, I suppose, but approved and denied and monitored on a much bigger level than just a school trying to get some resources to their golf program or their softball program, or certainly football, men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball, programs of those types of profiles. So this NIL Go space has helped kind of govern that a little bit, and it's kind of helped shape it out. The other thing that has happened is revenue share is part of college athletics now, as we know it. And most of the revenue share, at least from the perspective and the feedback I've gained, most of it is going to, especially at the bigger Power Four schools, is going to the football and the basketballs of the department. And that's good news and bad news. The good news is, the bad news is there's oftentimes not like free opportunities for your golf program to take advantage of those resources potentially. But the good news is it's very similar in a lot of places. So that means that the NIL opportunities that are being created for people on the team a lot of times are organic in nature, and that's what it should be. It is because they've, won a US amateur, or played really well in such and such a tournament, or is ranked such a way, or is an All-American in such a way. So when those components start to stack up on each other, and you're given those opportunities as a player on the team, you kind of earn them that way. And I think that's been very well received. I know that there's still, in the recruiting space, opportunities for people to find NIL before they get to school. And that's not a space that I'm really versed in, and I don't have a lot of experience. We haven't engaged in, because it's not super clear on the rules, and that's one of the things that makes it very difficult as a coach, is navigating that and being in a a compliant space, but also a competitive space. So that's where you rely on the resources on your campus and the expertise of the people in your department. You rely on the support of your administration, and that's where all of those pieces have to be aligned for there to be opportunities with recruiting.
Yeah, that's really, really important message, I think. So I think, obviously our role advising student athletes and families on this end, I think ultimately being guided by the coaches that are recruiting you, and in terms of what are the rules and what you can access and what you cannot access. And just knowing that every university may have a slightly different approach to it. And also being aware that this is a changing space all the time, where the rules are still reasonably grey in some areas, not absolutely clear. I think everyone's rolling with it. So, I also think an important message for our young athletes is that still, talking about what we talked about before, about the things that haven't changed, it's still so important to get the right fit. It's not about finding the right financial fit always as well. If you've got a full scholarship here and a full scholarship here, and someone's offering you an extra X amount of money, that doesn't mean it's going to be the right place for your golf either. So I think that's a really important message for kids and knowing that, okay, there are opportunities out there if you're good enough, but you got to earn it. And I think earning it over in the US is a pretty cool um, caveat. I think caveat is just sort of getting there first and proving yourself, and then some opportunities will come. And not using it as a dictating what university you want to go to in the first place. I think that's going to be an important thing.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that a little, Chris, and in the space of comps or doing your comparisons as you're evaluating too, you nailed it. I mean, I'm just using a very fake number, very round number, and I'm not, like if someone was going to give you $10,000 to go to school,
Mm.
or to take a job, that's a nice signing bonus, and that's amazing. And I don't even want to parallel it to job, but because it's not, it's an
Sure.
opportunity, it's an education, it's so much more. But if it was a number of $10,000, that's very enticing in the moment. But if you don't calculate in, maybe one of the job opportunities you have, it also comes with a country club membership, or some nutrition, or a better weight room, or and I'm slowly transitioning this into to what a golf program might offer versus a different golf program. But there's oftentimes some things that you can't put a price tag on that could come in a different form of the opportunity. And ultimately, what you want to do, especially if your ambition is to be a professional one day playing this game, and I realize there's different listeners out here from all over the spectrum. Some are just trying to get an education so that they can use that education to become a professional outside of sport and do run a
Yeah.
company or serve people doing some impactful work around the world. But some of them are trying to pursue this game at a professional level. And if you undercut yourself because of a short-term gain, and you don't have access to a great schedule, or optimal conditions to practice and train, or maybe
Yeah.
you're not around other great players. Maybe yeah, you got this nice like nice bag of resource, but you don't have other people to push you, or to train with. In the end, you're not going to get where you want to go anyway, potentially. So these are the things that you and your team, I'm sure, analyze and help evaluate and educate your listeners, and your, the people who rely on you. But those are some excellent points you made too.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because yeah, we do really try hard in it to really making sure. Yeah, this is not just a transaction, between an athlete with a golf video and a coach who needs a player. If there's more to it, making that choice, yeah, it comes down to the relationship that you feel you might be able to build with that coach, and I guess conversely, or the other way around as well, a coach need to be comfortable with. You're going to have that young man on your bus for 4 years. You're going to want to like him and want to feel like he's going to be coachable and going to fit in with your culture that you've been trying to create. So there's a lot to it. So I really appreciate your extra insights there as well. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, I think I could easily talk NIL for hours, as I think it's so intriguing. Just wish it was around when I was playing, but anyway, that's another story. But yeah, and I guess another just a real big topic at the moment that we're seeing. You mentioned recruiting timelines before. Maybe 5 years ago, I would say we take COVID out of the picture. Um, Normally, we would find, and particularly golf. I don't know if you're aware of this, Coach, but we find with golf coaches are probably the most organized coaches we find in collegiate sport in terms of recruiting, timeline, getting in front of athletes as early as possible, as early as is allowed with the NCAA, or at least tracking them from a young age. But what we found with the new roster limit rules that have come into play is we feel like almost recruiting has become year to year or semester to semester at the moment. Things change so quickly. Whereas maybe, yeah, 5 years ago, you've got to be in front of that coach considering committing 18 months out, and well, maybe 2 years out before someone else gets that spot. So, yeah, I mean, how have you found that's just one impact we see on this end coaches seem to be waiting before making a commitment to a player more so than in the past. Is that sort of something you've seen as well since the roster limit changes?
Yes and no. With the roster limits, you have to be much, much, much more disciplined about decision making with adding a player to a roster. I think in the past, and I don't even know when the roster limit deadline hit. I don't you might know off the top of your head, Chris, but if it was effective July 1 of this year,
Roughly.
there's roster limits. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a nuance there because they did a grandfather system with the designated student athletes. So there's
Yes.
going to be some programs who have designated student athlete, they abbreviate would be DSA. So there's going to be student athletes on some programs. You won't know who they are, but they're going to be DSA marked. So they will technically not even be part of the nine on the roster.
Yeah.
That's going to confuse people, but basically they could have 11. You're going to go, why does that school have 11 people? I thought you could only have nine. Well, two of those athletes could be DSA, which
Yep.
or four of them could, which means they could bring two more on, but
Right.
anyway, let's keep this simple. When you only have nine players that you can have on your roster, no longer can you recruit someone and then 6 months later someone really takes off and their parents both went to your school and they love your university and they just have died to be a part of the Wildcat program, let's say, for example. And you're like, man, how can we turn this down? He wants to come here. He doesn't, maybe he doesn't need a scholarship or very much of a scholarship, and we have what he needs. And it's just like, oh, we'll just get another golf bag and another polo and another sleeve of balls, and he's here. Now we have 10. You can't do that anymore. So you're making decisions about your roster for the future, and especially when you talk about signing those players, that's when it's final. Like that's when this is your roster. And I don't really like the transactional nature of the one of the consequences of this is it's putting coaches into a bit of a box where they need to have a competitive team, and if one or two of those or three of those players that they signed a year ago or 2 years ago haven't really manifested into the player they need them to be, I suppose that's a very tough conversation for a coach. I hope I don't put myself in that
Yeah.
conversation. I don't want to step on people to win. I want to win with the players we believe in and win with the players that we recruit. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I don't think that happens. And I think, it puts a level of accountability on everybody, the kids too, because now you can't just make it and go, whew, I made it. I'm on a college golf team. Let's go. I got a cool bag. And, I'm not playing that great, but I'm working on something. I'll figure you kind of need to go. You need to produce.
Yeah.
You need to work really hard. You need to make sure you're not the slowest deer, gazelle, whatever
Yeah.
that whole
For
thing
sure.
is,
Yeah.
so because it's competitive, and so that's a very real thing. And that timeline, I think, there was a period of time where people would be all over scooping up a player if they thought they were a good fit for their program. But now you need to just pause for, I think you do pause. You're like, okay, the consequence of saying yes to this player on this day is that we won't be able to recruit another player in 2027, maybe, and that's a whole year and a half before we sign them potentially. You know what I
Correct.
mean? So
Yep.
that's it. But I do think, when you find when you track what's going on with recruiting, it's also had the other effect too, where people will do anything they can to get the best player possible. And some of the very best players are, at least at junior year of high school, those best players are deciding, and sometimes they're deciding before August 1st even happens when they visit. So
Yep.
it's just a competitive space, and nothing I'm saying here suggests that anyone's doing anything wrong. It's just a
Mm.
function of the competitiveness of this environment, and coaches are doing different things to try to get the outcomes that they want with their recruiting.
100% agree. And I think that's something we just don't understand in Australia because we don't. It's so different what you've got over there. It's the only place in the world that does what you do, and so it's in Australia we don't. Yeah, it's very hard to see how competitive it is, and see how these inner workings happen with recruiting. But yeah, it is. It's just so competitive, and that's what makes the level so much better, and which is why. so many amazing college players and then going on to be pros, right? So I think it's working in terms of producing incredibly good players, obviously. So, as you say, coaches don't owe a player who's been recruited anything really. You kind of the player owes the program. So you've given me an opportunity. I need to perform, and I think that's an important message. And as harsh as that may sound, that's the reality of wanting to be an elite at anything. You've got to perform, same as in a job and things like that. So I think that's actually a really good message. I just want to ask you, Jim, about recruiting in general. We do presentations all around Australia, at golf clubs, at schools, about what coaches are looking for, typically. And we know there's no one size fits all. Some coaches may be big on swing and big on attitude, but hey, not so worried about those scores at the moment. And some coaches are all about scores, numbers, hitting long, the way they play, the types of courses they're on. I'm really curious, mate. Just in general. I mean, even from you being a colleague of so many other Division One coaches, in general, for yourself and just in general, the D1 coaches, what do you think the main things that they're looking for, let's say, in an overseas international athlete when recruiting?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and of course you're going to get varied answers across the board.
Yeah.
You know, Probably a little bit of my personal bias on this answer too, but generally speaking, I think, one of the great things about golf, and I can talk out of the other side of my mouth when I need to, Chris. So, one of the great things about golf is it's as objective of a game as you can possibly play. So I might have the funkiest looking golf swing, or I might hit it only 227 yards off the tee, but if I shoot 70 today, that beats your 71. And if I do that again tomorrow and I beat your 71 again tomorrow, that's 2-0. So what I'm trying to say is it's still a very objective game, and I don't want to say the rankings are the way to evaluate, but what the rankings are is it's a compilation of objective outcomes over a period of time, and
Yes.
that is a very useful tool in predicting, maybe not predicting, but certainly evaluating at that moment in time who's better between A and B. And normally it's not even that quite as simple of an evaluation. At the beginning, it's A versus Z to the nth degree. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so so at the beginning, I think it's easy to start with a rankings of some sort. And I don't know if the ones in Australia are as easy to access as those of the ones in the US, but Wagger ranking is something people are familiar with, or
Yep.
other world rankings that exist are very helpful. And then when you have those rankings, and even if you're talking about young players from Australia coming to compete against some of the players in that, and maybe they come in and they compete and they beat the player who's ranked 6th and 12th and 13th in that ranking in just one tournament. Like, maybe that player's pretty good. And then they go play in another tournament when they're in the US and they beat the player who's ranked 14th and 18th and 33rd. And you're like, this guy's played pretty good. He's beat some really good players. Eventually it's like, so that's really helpful context, especially if you're trying to draw some comparisons with some very, you know, different backgrounds and different competitive schedules and all those things. So going
Yeah.
back to the original thing, I think every coach wants to find great golfers, and guys who shoot good scores, because that's how ultimately we win golf tournaments. Is if we have
Yep.
guys who shoot the lowest scores, we win golf tournaments. So
Yep.
that's the first thing. It's one thing if they're like, oh man, he hits it really good. He hits it, 315 off the tee, whatever, ball speed's 184. All those things are definitely attractive, and certainly some quantitative measures that can show some potential. But on the other hand, if the score at the end of the day is always 79 or whatever, it's still just that potential. So that would be something. I think most people would say, the game of golf is being played with more speed, and the guys who are winning on majors and tour, is no secret that the farther you hit off the tee, generally speaking, there's a point of diminishing return, but generally speaking, it makes the game easier into the green. Better you are into the green, the better you putt, better like all those things.
Yep.
So speed is definitely something that a lot of people chase with their recruiting. Some things that I don't think are talked about enough, and I've found this to be very important. And I lucked into these things with 19 years of coaching now. I think it's really important to look for players and build the relationship through the recruiting process. People you like to talk to. Somebody you're going to be happy sitting in an airport with. Somebody
Yeah.
you're going to be okay jumping in a minivan with and driving 90 minutes to said final destination. Somebody you're going to walk 18 holes with in a practice round and hear them say stuff at 18 to 22 years old that isn't the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life. You know what I mean? Somebody that you can sit and have dinner with 3 nights in a row with other people that age that you're going to like talking to them and them with their peers and all that. So I think it's really important to find people you like to be around because I think it just helps promote the culture and the
Yeah.
environment that is fun. It's like I promise, even though I'm the coach and I might, sit there with my glasses on and have I don't try to have a scowl, but I do have a scowl. I've been trying to work on that. I'm actually like not like I look. I think, in my head I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
anyway. But I'm a person too, and I like feel things and relate to things and coach things into our team just the same as they do at their age. So it's important for me to have connectivity with the members of our team because I think it's way easier to be relatable. It's way easier to share empathy. It's way easier to motivate if you can share some common experiences and have a level of respect and understanding amongst one another. And so I think that's a very underrated part of recruiting is recruiting people you like to talk to and like to spend time with.
Yeah, that's absolutely aligns with sort of the advice we give because yeah, you can be shooting the lights out, but if you're not a coachable kid or you're not someone who can communicate well with a coach, or you just don't gel, you could be in the most beautiful place in America, and but you might not be happy. You might not be playing well because I'm a big believer in coach of if you're happy off the course, you're going to play well. If there's stuff going on, where you just, I wonder what coach thinks of me, or I wonder if coach really likes me or really believes in me, then you got to go out and play. It's again with being a social hack golfer myself, I know that's going to impact. And tennis was my background, but if I was happy and content, and I'm getting A's during the week in the classroom, I'm having some good conversations with coach, I'm feeling good about myself. I had a nice conversation with my parents, on a Zoom call earlier that day. I'm going to play well, or I'm going to give myself best chance of playing well. So, what you just said makes a lot of sense. For sure. I was going to ask you about, so I mean, basically to summarize what you said, I think the biggest message I just got from that is consistency of results. I think one good round is like, okay, raises an eyebrow. Okay, then you back that off and then you're shooting 78, 79, 80s for the next four. Okay, we're probably going to just sit back and watch some more. So you need to see a body of work over a long period of time. I say to our golfers all the time, as does Jared. You're better to play and play bad than not play at all. It's so much better just be posting scores, right? Because you're a golfer, you should be playing golf. So that's a big measure. Some people wait until they're feeling really good about their game and then go out and play those tournaments. Our advice is don't wait, just play. Let's get a body of work. Coaches aren't going to not recruit you because you have one bad round, right? Every golfer plays bad
Mhm.
rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, the fact remains that we set a schedule a year in advance oftentimes, and we don't have the luxury at this level. And a PGA Tour pro doesn't get the luxury like, Rory can't say, you know what? US Open week, I don't think I'm ready. Let's just wait. He's got to be ready, and so you set your schedule in advance. You don't have to go a whole year in advance, but you tell yourself I'm playing in X, Y, and Z tournaments. Now it's up to you to go backwards and figure out how to ready yourself for that. And sometimes you gotta go with what you got, and it might not be A plus perfect, but that's what I think the best coaches in college golf do with their teams. And that's a lot of times why you see a lot of those teams that stay kind of up there at the top is because they know how to prepare their team and they know what, and I promise you, it's rare when you go on the road and you have 5 out of 5 who are feeling like everything's clicking and it's perfect and they're not. putting till dark in the practice round, or
Mm.
hitting balls till they kick us off the range, or hitting an extra 5 balls before the round starts. Somebody's looking for something before the round. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but it's very rare that you get to decide, okay, everything's perfect, the car's perfect, we're ready to race, and you go that day. It's like you got to just go with what you got.
Yeah, that's good. I really like that. Let me ask you, I was going to say, don't need to spend too much time on this, just out of curiosity. And we talk about JUCO a lot. It's a really good starting point for a lot of our athletes for different reasons: eligibility, cost, opportunity, opportunity to get those scores that you're talking about in the US, where you're going to understand those results more than maybe a local tournament here in Australia. So, do you look at JUCO recruits much, or do many Division One coaches look at JUCO recruits? What are the chances of being a really good golfer going to JUCO for their own reasons, then getting picked up by good D1s?
There's always stories. I don't want to say a story. There's always stories of a junior college player ascending into a strong Division I program and playing in that lineup and that team having success. We have one junior college player on our team right now, and he's played all 4 events for us in the fall. So there is absolutely a pathway, and I think one of the best parts about the junior college path is, especially if your a skill level is quite high, you're going to have a far easier path to get to play right away, and that's beneficial. And the other thing is, especially if you're later to the recruiting process, or just didn't realize like what it all entailed, and you end up on that path, you get another shot at being recruited. And it too. It's not even like, oh, I'm going to go to a school and then I'm going to try to transfer out, but meanwhile, you've made a good friendships with the team, you like the coach, it's a good fit, and now it's like, oh man, do I really want to leave this? No. But if you're a junior college player, you're leaving after 1 or 2 years. So it also puts a bit of urgency on your
Yep.
timeline, that it's like, hey, this is my goal. I'm very committed to this, and I want to continue climbing in competitive golf. So I think it's a great path. I mean, it's still very competitive, and it's not a guarantee. I wouldn't say if you pulled the top 25 programs right now, I don't know if all 25 coaches would say, yes, I'm looking at a junior college player. I would like to add a junior college player, because sometimes it's just circumstantial with what the program's needs are at that time. But
Yep.
there's only room for 25 teams in the top 25, and there's probably 50 schools that think they're in the top 25. And there's also, only room for 75 schools in the top 75, but I can promise you that I've not done this, but there's 150 schools that think they're in the top 75 in the way that they run their programs, which is a good thing, because that means there's motivated coaches who are very organized, like you said. They're investing time, they're finding resources to help fund their programs. It's making for better experiences for
Yeah.
for for so many kids on all of these teams, and that's why you're seeing the elevation of so much great golf coming out of college golf now, because everybody's trying to get better. And that's the same path. If you choose the junior college route, you're going to fall into a space there, if you do the right things, and continue working hard and find a good fit, have success at the junior college level. You can find a home at a Division I or Division II or Division III school after 2 years of getting your experience in the US here playing junior college.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I really appreciate that, Coach, because yeah, it's what we say and what we educate people about here. But it's good to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I love what you said there. There's only 75 programs that can be in top 75, but everyone really feeling like they're on the path to that, or if they get one more good recruit, they're going to be in top 78, and that's yeah, we get that. It's really really cool. But yeah, I mean, you kind of answered my next question. I think just that by saying this is why there's an elevated level of golfers coming out of college. I was going to ask you now, like what's the sell? Like we try not to sell college to people. For us, we present information, and people are going to love the idea or they don't, right? And they're either going to want to go or they don't. But what's the sell? I mean, talking about a modern college golfer going to college in Division One level, what are they accessing on a daily basis when we talk facilities? What courses they play on, the travel schedule, like. we will say often the value of a student athlete golf scholarship over 4 years at a D1 is probably in excess of 500K in terms of value when you build all your travel and tuition and everything into it. So and yeah, if you can maybe build into your answer too, because this may be a long question, so it's probably going to be a long answer as well. But like, what about the PGA Tour U and and explaining how that feeds into the tour and Corn Ferry, etc. What's the sell for a good young golfer looking at D1 and thinking about college versus maybe not going to college? Maybe I'm going to stay in Australia and not go. What's the sell of going?
I think the simple answer is competition. And if you look at where players are it isn't the only way to get to the PGA Tour or European Tour or sorry, DP World Tour. There's winners often who didn't go to college, but generally speaking, if you look at who's performing on a week in and week out basis, with some exceptions. I fully admit that I don't need the audience jumping through the radio right now and saying, "Wow, what about him? What about him?" I know there are exceptions, but when you look across the board, more and more you're seeing players who have had time, and a lot of times now, especially thanks to PGA Tour U, 4 years of college golf in their resume. And I think the simple answer to that great question, Chris, is competition. And whether you're playing at the number one program in college in the US, number 25 program, number 50 program, it doesn't matter. We're all doing anything and everything we can to position our programs to continue to be better than we are. I guess the number one program doesn't have to do anything except they know that they got a bunch of people right behind them trying to take that spot, so
Yeah.
they aren't sitting on their laurels. But the competition that you get both externally when you travel to these top tournaments, or if you're not in the top program, even the top tournaments your program can get to, you're playing the best competition externally. Oftentimes you're playing them on some of the best golf courses in the US. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret some of the best courses in the US want to host college golf tournaments because they know the future stars of professional golf are playing right now, right here in college. So when those tournaments put a pool of 10 teams or 15 teams, with 75 players, whatever the number of the field is, they know that there's a great chance 3, 4, 6, 10, sometimes 20 of them are going to be guys that are on the PGA Tour, maybe winning on the PGA Tour in some cases. So competition externally is huge. And then you also get competition internally. I mean, we talked about it already. The coaches who are building these rosters, I'm not going to go recruit the 1000th best golfer if I can get the 100th best golfer. And I'm not going to get the 100th best golfer if I can get the 10th best golfer. And when I continuously do that and fill my 9 spots with the 10th best golfer and the 14th best golfer, and next year's class, the 30th best golfer, and the next year's class, maybe I get the number one golfer, like all those things. All of a sudden, internally, you're playing with those guys every single day and you're practicing with them. And it doesn't mean you have to do it the way they do it, but you learn from your peers. And I think any great golfer would admit that part of their process in building them into the golfer they become, they learn from the people they play with. They might be in the bunker on a practice round, and this guy gets in there and he, widens his stance, gets real low, gets the ball, his hands way low, and he hits this bunker shot that goes up and over. Like, how'd you do that? It's like, oh, this is what I do. You take stuff from the people you compete with, especially those who you see every day. So, in a very easy answer, I think the thing you gain the sell for picking college golf is competition.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. And I think what some people don't realize, so you're playing against the best amateurs in the world, as you just mentioned, but also the courses, right? I mean, some of the courses you're playing on, I imagine, are just the best.
Yeah, and you can watch it on Golf Channel now too. There's
Yeah.
a half a dozen tournaments in the fall, maybe more, that you can see on Golf Channel, and part of the draw there is these great golf courses who broadcast they want to have great players there because they know what that is, and then they also want their courses to get they share it on TV. It's on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because guess what? Pro golf televised on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday has become college golf days. So that's the perfect time for college golf to be on show, if you will, or showcased. by Golf Channel and other avenues. So it just continues to compound onto itself, and it's a very positive, way with what the programs that are competing for these spots and getting to play. I mean, East Lake was just played. That's hosted majors. East Lake Country Club is just
Yeah,
on Golf Channel. They
pretty
played
awesome.
at St. Andrews. We played in that tournament last year. They played the college golf goes to St. Andrews. I mean, there's and that's just two anecdotal examples of some of the great golf courses that you play. And you don't do that if you pursue professional golf. Now, if you pursue professional golf at 18 years old and you make it, hey, I think you've made a great choice. But the consolation of not making it is very, very difficult. And we haven't even really talked about it, but there's no harm in growing up and getting an education and having something to help you, have it's not even a backup plan. It just helps you become a more complete person, to mature, educate yourself, do something that maybe I don't want to say you don't want to, but do things that you're told to do. That's like part of real life. I mean, every adult knows that you have to do things you don't want to do. So there's so much more that's baked into good that comes from pursuing college golf as the path. But I think going back to the original question, all of us are doing everything we can to do better, and that competition is what continues to elevate, and that's why choosing college golf is such a great choice.
Yeah. So much stuff you just said there. We could just pick that apart for another hour as well. But but I think um, what I just resonate with there, it almost comes back to the NIL. It's like, okay, there's a temptation for a short-term gain here. If you want to pick up 10 grand or whatever it is, or if you're getting offered to get paid to stay here and travel or whatever it is and try and play. The message we always give to people who are considering that is you can start college and figure out that you don't like it maybe after a year. There's no contract to stay for 4 years as well, and you can leave, if you don't like it, or if you feel you're too good for it. If you've outgrown college golf and you're ready to be a pro, hey, all the best, good luck. But you can't do it the other way. You can't go and try and play for 2 or 3 years and say, oh, by the way, I want to go to college now. That hasn't worked out. So to me, it's it's not even a discussion in terms of, like, it's a no-brainer. You give college a go and you start with the mentality of, I'm going to go come and graduate. But if for whatever reason things don't work out, or they really work out and you're winning national tournaments and national amateur, championships and things like that, well, okay, if you feel like you're ready to go pro, you go for it. But certainly starting at college, committing to starting at the very least is I think a pretty wise idea. Um, I just want to just quickly touch on that, like, coming from our governing sort of body here, actually there is, just coming back to what we were talking about before in terms of how you recruit and that relationship building. I just want to just touch on it, and just see what your thoughts and how you might respond to this. But like, even on the website of our national governing body for golf at the moment, there is it's a warning to student athletes to, I quote, always keep in the back of your mind that college coaches are like car salesmen and will sometimes provide inaccurate information to order to sign you to your roster. So look, that certainly hasn't been our experience in doing this for 20 plus years. But yeah, for those who read that, and don't know anything else about college and maybe don't get to meet coaches like yourself and, see what actually happens on that side, how do you respond to that?
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to hear that I'm not glad to hear that. I should have said I'm glad to hear that the differing opinions, and I think that's great because it can help open up some dialogue. And I think before me telling you on why I don't agree with that sentiment, I think the best thing to do would be to invite high profile and low profile college players who are probably, done with school 3 years, 5 years, 10 years past, and invite them to talk about their college experience, being them international, being them American, whatever it is. And I actually I'm very surprised to hear that, because I think one of the hardest things about being a college golf coach is there are so many great people leading programs. It's really hard to hate your competitor because they're honestly some of the best people I know. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to protect the profession or anything like that. There are so many good people. And I think probably true what they're saying is probably true in some of the other sports. And I don't want to be so arrogant or so wholesome or so just Pollyanna about the game of golf, but I think the game of golf brings out some really special people because of the honor and integrity and just the way the game is supposed to be played. And I don't think you can lead young people in the game of golf and be a villain, truly a villain. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's not that many villains in the game of golf, and most people who coach programs are have been around the game of golf forever. So they're not using, stepping stones to move and navigate and step on people and get all these places. So I definitely disagree with that sentiment. I think it's great to hear that people are cautioning you to make this kind of decision because it is a big decision.
Yeah.
It is, but I think the best people to ask the coaches or ask the players that are on that team, and ask the players
Yeah.
like, hey, how's your coach? Ask the players who just graduated. I mean, this is such an honor to me, but I've been invited to over the last 3 or 4 years, and my wife gets to go. They invite my kids. I've been to a half a dozen or more weddings, and there's nothing of former players, and there's nothing that is more like just like it gives me so much appreciation for the people who invite me back because I know being a coach isn't easy, and I know I wasn't always like saying what they wanted them to hear. I definitely didn't always take them to every tournament. I had to deliver
Yeah.
bad news at times. But
Yes.
for them to feel, years after our relationship in a daily sense is over, they're willing to invite me to be a part of the most important day of their life. Like how incredible of an honor is that? So I don't, and I promise you, there are college golf coaches all over the country who are being invited to weddings all the time because there's just some great people leading programs. So I think you know if you see what coaches are willing to do for their players and even the resources that they're assembling to give back to their program and the competition that we're all experiencing, like that's we're doing it for them, we're doing it for those players, and we want them to continue to ascend and pursue their dreams. So I hopefully that answered the question pretty well, Chris. I definitely appreciate the differing opinions, but I can promise you, at least speaking for men's golf, and I think women's golf is safe to say too. I don't know as many women's golf coaches. There are so many great people leading programs that they are not trying to harm their kids, and they would do anything for them to create opportunities for them well into their future.
Yeah. Really well said. I really appreciate it because I 100% agree, and that's been our experience. So, but that being said, I think, you know, it is possible to go to the wrong college, and it is possible to go to college where it just doesn't work out, where it's just not the right fit. And what really bothers us, I suppose, at Studying Play USA and why we do what we do is we hate the idea that someone's had that experience, and we want to do everything we can to avoid that in the first place by finding the right fit. And so it's about exactly what you said. It's about there's three levels of research that we talked about. One is Google. Okay, Google the coach, Google the program. Okay, you can do that. That's the worst kind of research, but it is research. The best research is meeting with the coach, the assistant coach, and the next best, maybe even the best, is as you said. Okay, that seemed to go well. Yeah, he was a bit salesy. He was really promoting his program to me, but I'm going to take that as a compliment. I'm going to take that as a compliment, as he should be selling his program, right? He wants me there. But now I'm going to just check with some of the players and maybe just some of the international players specifically, ask these questions because yeah, they're going to have a different perspective than the local American kid who is always going to go to that college. What's it like being an international on campus? Is it safe? Is the coach as nice as he really seems on that meeting? What's a typical day look like? So these are the stuff we do, like, for our athletes who, meet with you or any coaches, we prepare them to ask the right questions. Now, it doesn't mean you've got 100% chance of having the best 4 years of your life, but we feel by doing that, you're doing your homework and researching properly, not just jumping at the best offer firstly. But by going through that process, it gives yourself the best chance anyway.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I appreciate you talking about that. I'm going to I'm going to wind up on I mean, we've been going a while here. We could keep going for ages here, mate. This is great. But um, I'm going to wind up on a slight curveball. Don't really want to get into a political conversation, but and I don't want to do that to you, coach, and won't put you on the spot. But all the way down here in Australia, we've fed at the moment lately. We're getting some pretty negative media, maybe about the US politically. And if it's not asked of us by parents, we know that it's probably they're thinking it. It's a little bit of elephant in the room for some families. So I'm just sort of getting on the front foot. I was just sort of curious to see, because from my recent visit to the US, as I said, that place is as amazing as I have always known it to be. Love the country, love the place, love the opportunity, love this space of a student athlete full experience. Nothing's changed. In fact, I think it's as good as it's ever been, if not better. But that's what's the feedback and experience of maybe some of your international athletes on this front about how they're feeling as an international in America right now?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I can tell you that day to day, there's like everybody's doing great. Like
Yeah,
they really are. I
yeah,
mean, and my wife and I, like we have to like I'm not even trying to dance around it. Like I think it can be as big a deal as you want it to be if you choose to read what you want. It's like the same thing. Like if on we use ESPN app over here, it's like I get a lot of news about the Chicago Bears because I like to watch the Chicago Bears, but I don't know what's going on with the Miami Dolphins or the Los Angeles Rams because I don't really, so I don't have to wake up and
yeah,
know the drama that's going on either of those two
yeah,
NFL teams. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
if you don't want it to be part of what's going on in your daily life, I don't think our international kids feel any type of constraint or stress or anything that they wouldn't if it was 4 years from now or 4 years ago. You know what I mean? It's
totally
just
agree.
daily life is just that. It's what you make of it. They go to the golf course, they go to breakfast, they go to the workout, they go to breakfast, they go to class, they go to the golf course, they go home, they go out to eat. You know what I mean? Like we're doing the same things we were doing before, and we're gonna be doing the same things tomorrow. So I don't think, not even trying to dance around the question at all. It's definitely something it incites different perspectives and different conversations, and even going back to my answer of want to be able to have good conversation with and even them with their peers.
Mm.
But overall, we've been doing great with our program, and we just focus on what we have control over, and that's worked out great for us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's sort of a different when we get into politics and religion, two things we don't talk about, right? But anyway, I think I really appreciate you handled that well, and I think it's just going to help people down here just get an understanding of what really is, because we know the media's perspective is sometimes a little bit one-sided. So appreciate that, Coach, and that's really helpful. Um, Mindful of time, mindful you've got to do things as well. But I just wanted to change pace back a little bit, just a little bit short, sharp finish, mate. Some on the spot questions to finish off. Haven't prepared you for these ones, but a bit of fun. Favorite all time golfer?
Jim Furyk. I love Jim Furyk.
Jim Furyk. There you go. Where's he
Yeah,
from?
yeah,
Where's he
yeah.
from originally?
He's from West Virginia. He played at the
Yeah,
University of Arizona. He's done so
yeah,
much for our program. I've built up
yeah.
a personal friendship with him, and he's just an amazing man and a major champion, Ryder Cup
Oh,
captain,
yeah.
President's Cup winner. He's as good a guy as you'll ever meet too off the course.
Yeah, yeah. I knew he was a Wildcat. Yeah, I just wasn't sure where he was originally from, but yeah, no, he's a heck of a resume, huh?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
best current player on tour.
Uh, Jordan Gumberg won on DP World Tour a couple years ago, and he actually invited me. He's getting married here next month, so I'll be going to his wedding. I can't wait to see him there. And he just recently holed out in very epic fashion on the 72nd hole for Eagle, which it jolted him into the number to stay on the DP
Oh,
World
wow.
Tour next year. It was just 2 Sundays ago. So either he's probably doing the best right now.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Have you got a favorite Aussie player across history that you've admired? Put you on the spot.
Man, I should put more thought into it, and I'm sure this is going to be a popular answer. I really like Adam Scott. I like his thoughtfulness. I like his professionalism. I like his composure. He's a champion too. And I don't know. There's just an energy about Adam Scott that I admire a lot.
Yeah, that's good. I think yeah, that would be a very popular answer down here for sure. And changing tack for your own guys, what's their go-to post-tournament restaurant?
There's a restaurant here in the States called Cava, which about our internationals love it. It's kind of a Mediterranean infused, and it's quick. This would be like on the quick, 36 whole day where we just need to
Yep.
eat and we need to go to bed,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Cava is a hot one right now. It's like a Mediterranean version of Chipotle, if you've heard of Chipotle.
Yeah, yeah, sure
Um,
have. Yeah. Miss
okay,
it
so
a
you know
lot.
Chipotle. Yeah, 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 exactly. So, but they like Chipotle too. But those would be the two quick ones.
Yeah, I like that. Sounds good. Favorite thing for you living in Arizona?
I love the weather or sunshine. I don't know my Celsius conversion. It's 76 right now. I'm on my back patio. It's 10 minutes to 7 and I got a polo on and it's a beautiful time of year. So weather would be probably my favorite thing. And sunsets, sunshine sunsets.
Yeah, good place for golf, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, and final two things. You've also answered one of these: NFL, NBA team, Bears, and who do you go for in the?
Yeah, Chicago Bears for the NFL, and in the NBA, I like the Denver Nuggets. They won recently, and Joker plays for them. But I lived in Colorado for a short time, which is when I really picked him up. Aaron Gordon played at the U of A, and he's
Yeah,
he's amazing too. So I'm a Nuggets fan.
yeah. I was when I was at college. It was Mike Bibby was the go-to guy there at Arizona.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's coaching now too, I think.
yeah. I think his name's in
So
and around that's one of those teams. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
that's a long
yeah.
time ago. Showing my age.
Good one.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. That's all right. You haven't forgot. Those are some good ones.
My memory's still there. That's good. But yeah, no, thanks a lot for this, Coach Anderson. Really appreciate your time and your candor and knowledge, and very much appreciated by me and our team, but also obviously our listeners. So, love to have you down in Australia anytime. You can come and recruit players and come down, and we'll show you around where the good courses are. If you want to bring your team anytime, we'd love to. We'd love to see you guys down here. But we'll keep in touch, Coach. And yeah, thank you once again for joining.
Hey, Chris, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the chance to join you and your audience and keep up the great work. Certainly hope to make good on that trip to Australia because I haven't been and I know how beautiful a country it is and wonderful people. And I do one day want to get down there and I'd love to see you and all the great work you guys are doing. So thank you.
Appreciate it, mate.
All right.